Feels like there's two links out there. I don't know. See yours out. To me, see what happens. I don't know what will happen. I mean, it's happened to me for sure. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay.
There we go. Christina said she was trying to get into the room. I don't know if she's on the attendees right now or not.
Well, I'm glad you're on. I having technical link issues here, but
Yeah, it's to me, it's so difficult to attend. It's not let me. Then I go to the website and I click to there and I can, then it let me in. As a panelist, I can. So just let that's to know that. I tried 5 times. It doesn't work the link that's you provided to the email. Thank you.
thanks, Mustafa. I sent out a link, and I think there's one that Alex sent out. I think people are maybe chatting about it. Really unsure why one is working and the other's not. So sorry, everybody. Marvin, can you hear me okay?
I can. Yes, I
Oh,
can.
great. Great. And Lauren, I think I see you on the meeting. Glad everyone could make it. Do we have people waiting?
Do we need to make Christina a panelist?
Yes, let me get in there. From
Daniel, I just tried to move her over, but I think because I passed the host permissions to you, you need to move
you
her
know,
over there.
I'm in. I'm trying to promote to panelists, and it's not giving me any
Options, right?
It looks like Christina needs to accept it.
But I mean, I get the, because
And Christina just declined to be promoted to panelist.
Yeah,
So-
Christina usually takes them from attendees, and her questions and answers are usually come through the Q&A. So just make sure you guys are keeping an eye on that.
She's the co-chair right now, though, so.
Oh,
Oh, it looks like I see it, an acceptance or a log off. I'm not, oh, Christina's back, promoting to panelist.
there you go.
Already did that, but let's hopefully Christina
She has
accepts
to
it.
accept it on her end,
Yeah,
and she has some issues with the screenwriter. It's
Hang on, I can try and call her in, maybe, through, like, I don't know. I don't know how we should do this.
all I get is one notice that Christina declined to
Yeah.
be promoted, and I'm not sure what could be happening on her end.
It's because of our screen reader, it automatically declines it. So that's
Gotcha.
not how, but I don't know how to make that work because what we do at the board isn't going to work in the co-chair position.
I'm sorry, repeat that last part.
I'm just
Again?
saying like how we've been able to interact with Christina at the board might not work for this particular setup as so we're gonna have to discuss how to make sure that she's on the call.
Hi, Tamara, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just wondering if Bella, the other co-chair, is she having trouble, or are they having trouble getting in?
I don't see Bella on my list any or in the panelist or the attendee list.
Oh.
Let me check my email. I just sent Christina and Bella the link that Alex sent out. Let's see. I don't know how to work around Christina's page reader.
My suggestion is to have someone call Christina and keep her on speaker. Like Ruby, if you could give Christina a call, and that way she can chime in through your audio.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm trying to do that right now. Thanks for that idea.
Yep. Thanks.
I might have to log off, but I will be right back.
I've given Christina the ability to allow to unmic, and it appears as if her Hollywood Square shows up. I see you, Christina. If you can unmic, it should allow. Nope, she went away. Thanks everyone for just being patient here.
I'm gonna try to do a conference call where we're calling into the thing, so give me 1 second. Is there a way to call into this?
I sent the details to Bella and to Christina just a minute ago with
Okay.
those joined via audio details all in there.
Someone make a motion to have a chair pro tem for the time being, or should we wait for this to get sorted out?
I make a motion that we have a chair pro tem. That was Tamara, by the way.
I'll
Thanks, Tamara.
second.
Yes, I'll third that. Sorry, I couldn't get to my mute button. Um,
Joel, would you mind?
well, I guess I nominate that Tamara's the co-chair. I don't know if we have to vote on this. I don't know how we're doing this. I'm sorry. I'm trying to make this work, but I don't really know the protocol on this.
Will second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right. Any opposed? Not hearing any. So Tamara, do you mind being co-chair for a second?
Sure, thank you. Not a problem. I think I wasn't a part of the agenda planning this time around, so I will, I'll just start with the land acknowledgement and move through the agenda as planned, and go from there. So the agenda, I'm sorry, the land acknowledgement goes as, I would like to acknowledge that we are in the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. We make this land acknowledgement to remind ourselves of the power of solidarity and nurturing relationships based on our shared beliefs and actions to co-steward our green spaces and communities in Seattle. Is somebody able to pull up the agenda?
Yeah, I was gonna actually step in. Tamara, thank you so much for that land acknowledgement, by the way.
Of course.
Appreciate you stepping up and doing that and being the pro tem co-chair. I'm gonna take the wheel here until we get obviously Tamara, I'm working with you as pro tem. I'll take the wheel at showing the agenda and then kind of walking us through that. I worked with Bella on Monday, so we met. So I'm pretty I feel pretty confident about what she wanted to get to in the agenda, so I can cover on those pieces. But by all means, anyone else can jump in. This is for all of us, so I'll bring up the agenda now. Okay. Up. So no special magic here, folks. I'm just going straight to the website and going to the agenda, and I'm pulling it up here. So we'll start out. I just want to introduce Joel Bernstein. Joel, thank you for joining. He's part of the research and data team. Joel's covering for admin support for today's meeting. Thank you so much, Joel. A lot of grace for everybody the start of this meeting, and Joel is going to go through roll call, and we're going to start out with that just to see who we've got here. And we'll mark Christina as tentative. I know she's been in and out, but well, let's just go through roll call and start there. Joel, I'll hand it over to you. If you need any instructions or anything, let me know.
Great. And Daniel, I'll have you mute while I'm speaking, I think, because we're close to each other. Okay. Tamara.
Here.
Sherry.
Here.
Christina. Height. Ruby. Ruby. Okay. Noting Ruby's presence, that she spoke earlier. Marvin.
Here.
Christina, we are marking as tentative. Frank. Ben.
I'm here.
Victoria.
Here.
And Bella. Mustafa.
Present.
Okay. So that gives us, counting Christina, I believe 8 present, 3 absent. So we're at quorum. Daniel, I'll hand it back to you.
Thanks for that, Joel. So I'll do a quick run through of the agenda, and then I'm actually gonna stop sharing my screen so I can get to the notes section of where we're at. 2 things actually, we're going into public comment. Tamara, do you want to lead us into that, and then I'll get into agenda pieces?
Certainly. We are opening public comment as of now, and the public comment period will be open for the remainder of the meeting by chat, hopefully. And if anyone has their hand up now, this is a good time to voice your feedback. Are there any hands in the audience? Well, I see someone in the attendees list. That's a phone number. Are they able to unmute?
Just to promote.
Can you guys hear me?
Is that Christina?
It's Ruby and Christina on the same. Christina, can you speak?
I see the captioning is coming through.
Okay. Can you guys hear Christina?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. So if you could promote us, I don't know how we're going to make this work, but there you go. There's Christina.
You're in. You both are in. So thank you so much, Ruby.
No worries.
I don't see anything here public comment wise. Look in the chat.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Christina just noted that she was here. Chat. Okay.
Thanks for stepping in, Tamara. I appreciate that.
Of course, yeah. should I hand this over to Christina now as the facilitator? Or-
Christina, it's up to you.
I'm here.
And you're co-chair, so Bella's not here. Do you want Tamara to help facilitate today with you, or would you like to take over?
Bella's not here?
That is correct.
Is Bella out?
We're not sure, but she's not here, and so you're co-chair,
Okay.
and
Gotcha. No,
Is there-
yeah, I would definitely love your two lovelinesses to help me out. I wasn't aware. I was supposed to mentor behind Bella today. So, yeah. Hello, everybody.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Let me. You got me. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to pull up. Can you, Daniel, put the agenda on the screen, please?
Yes, I'll go ahead and do that now. I had that up and I pulled it down, but I'm gonna pull it back up for us.
Is anyone able to call her or call them and see if she's okay? I think I want to make sure. This sounds like this was not expected or planned, and that is not in their
all.
character. So, somebody
No.
able to,
Because she was on yesterday, and we all spoke with her on Monday.
yeah, I'm concerned.
Let me.
I'm checking my email to see if I've got anything, and I have not gotten anything back from Bella.
Okay, then I think if someone is able to kind of reach out while we conduct the meeting, that would be very helpful. Until we hear back from her, I think we should proceed with the agenda as planned. Unless there's any other discussion or questions or suggestions at this time.
yeah, I would just maybe say, since Christina wasn't prepared, Tamara, do you mind kind of handling this today until Bella shows, or until we get it figured out?
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much. You're the best.
No problem. It sounds like Daniel, I think the next section then would be to move on to the next pieces of the agenda.
So here's the agenda, everybody. Hopefully you can see that. Give me some feedback if you can't. But it looks like it's coming through. I see it coming through. So kind of a lot to get through today, but without Bella, I don't know what she had prepared for the communication section, but we'll go through this together. So we did roll call. Thank you, Tamara, for the land acknowledgement. Public comment, didn't see anything there. So moving down to the first thing on the agenda, which was Dr. Tim Thomas, our new Chief of Research and Data on our team, here for the HMIS team, known as the Research and Data team at KCRHA. Tim is not able to join until 3 o'clock. I got last minute notice on that. If we have time, I'd like to make a recommendation to update the agenda and bump Tim down to 3. And I would need a call for motion on this one, and if the group is willing to forego that.
Yeah, I make a motion to move that agenda item down to the appropriate time.
And this is Christina. I second it.
Oh, then, okay. Then I think we'll
Well-
move that down.
Is there a discussion? The motion second, do we discuss? Or are we just modifying the agenda?
Yeah, does anyone want to discuss it? Moving this down to 3:05.
Okay, but he will present to himself today. Okay, sounds
Yeah.
good. Thanks. I was wondering if we were just taking it off the agenda. Didn't want that.
No, he let me know that he can come at 3. But 3:05 is when we would start back up after the break.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Great.
then,
All right.
yeah, without Bella here to present on the next section, then
Yeah.
I think you're up next, Daniel.
I'm up next.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is Christina. I want to apologize. My daughter had surgery Monday and we had follow-up, and I did let Bella know that I would be late today and stuff like that and not be at a computer for another 15 minutes. And so I had arranged it and was expecting Bella to fully be here, everybody. So I apologize for not being able to be more in tune and on a more accessible computer.
Christina,
Okay,
thank you for
Christina.
that. Daniel, I appreciate that. And I'm just really pleased that you joined and you're here and you showed up. So I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. I think with all things considered, this is for everyone. Thank you for showing up today. These are, challenging times. So I'll go over I'll go over the agenda items that I have prepared for. I want to talk a little bit about federal reporting. I want to let the group know that on June 13th this month, just a few days ago, our research and data team as the HMIS lead had a requirement to complete the point in time count for shelters, transitional housing, and safe havens, along with the annual housing inventory count. So this is the normal PIT count, but without the unsheltered component. That's every 2 years. That was completed thanks to the data management team, as well as the BitFocus team. Lauren, Melissa, thank you for all of your many, many, many weeks and months of hard work on this. We just submitted that. And then what I am developing is a communications timeline on and developing with internally what the data products are going to be on that. And then we'll be publishing those data products online. So what I'm really talking about here is those final numbers, getting them out to you all. And we submitted them to HUD. We have several weeks now where HUD will review that and they'll come back with us with any technical questions. And once we're done with that process, they will accept the submission. So what all this means is we got the submission, we got it done, we submitted on time per the requirements, and now we're in that technical assistance back and forth with HUD. And so long as they don't have any questions, they'll likely just give us an approval like they do every year and say, great, it's been accepted. And then between now and that time, I'm working on a communication plan and working internally on what we're going to produce externally. And then kind of take that on build either a slide deck, a presentation, maybe a one-sheeter about the analysis. And because it's not an unsheltered count, there's no large report like with the 2024 PIT, since this just involves our sheltered count. And for the most part, we know year after year what that number is going to be because we know what the beds are. We keep track of those in the HMIS. So we know a utilization is usually between the 80 and 90% mark. So really, there's not a lot of surprises with the sheltered PIT count. Now, I want to pause there and open it up for questions. I know we have a lot of new members. I really do want to make sure you understand what I just described. So please ask me some questions on mic.
Do you want us just to weigh in or raise hands?
Just any questions on this 2025 PIT submission?
Yes. It's great. I know we do this regularly, but the climate now is that our housing, our inventory count is going to change or is subject to change. How is that represented? Well, how will that be represented in the communications going out? Because I don't think they've changed yet. However, it is something that's looming.
Yeah, whether or not we still have the same inventory last year as we do this year. Is that what you're thinking of, that comparison, Marvin?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. The sheltered PIT count is isolated to 3 project types: emergency shelter, transitional housing, and safe havens. We'll have the analysis completed once we hear from HUD that they have no questions about what we submitted. And then at that point, we'll be able to dive in and look at comparisons. Since we're not looking, since the sheltered PIT count is only looking at those 3 project types, you're right, Marvin, the housing inventory count will look at all of our housing types, and then that will be a larger analysis that I can get back to the group. I don't have any preliminary information on that yet. We really just submitted. It's one of those things where you spend a lot of time in the data quality, compiling the data, and you almost, my experience, we don't do the analysis until the submission. HUD says, yes, this is it, final numbers. We're good with these. And then the analysis starts. It's almost, it's hard to start an analysis and then maybe hear back on some corrections or things that they find, and then have to redo that analysis. So we really wait until we get that final word back from HUD.
Thank you.
This is Chris. Can I ask my questions now?
Absolutely.
One, I want to point out at the vehicular homelessness committee that's run by KCRHA, all of the safe parking providers said they were not asked for any data with this specific point in time count. And I don't understand if they're sheltered in the sense of how we see sheltered as the vehicular homeless, and therefore the number for vehicle homelessness that was reported yesterday is pretty low. And had they actually reached out to these providers, that number would have went up greatly. So one, I have a concern that they weren't considered in this point in time count. And two, I don't believe you were on yesterday with our convening, but it said that the point in time committee was already picked, and that you had already agreed upon the measurements used for the 2026 point in time count. And I don't feel like we really discussed that yet.
Yeah, if I could break your
Janelle.
Yeah, if I could break that question up into chunks. The first part is for the 2025 point in time count, that those 3 intervention types I mentioned, we did include our safe parking as an emergency shelter. So we did include those in.
We had 8 safe parking programs on the last vehicular homelessness, and every last one of them that is paid for by KCRHA in Seattle, they said they were not asked for data. So I could go off the 8 that were present, including the ones in Bellevue, said that they were not included. So that's why I'm saying they were not so specifically.
Yeah, Christina, I'm sorry, I have a correction there. Those would be unsheltered. That would be an unsheltered count. I'm sorry, I think I misunderstood initially. Those would be that would be our unsheltered group. So we don't do that. We do that only on even years. So we did not do an unsheltered pit in 2025. And I'm not talking about the convening that happened yesterday about the 2024 report out. This is just the 2025 report out. So yeah,
yes,
that's
it's a way we can change, and I'm talking about for the sheltered count, because in my mind, I don't understand why we're not including them in the sheltered count, since they are. Could you possibly explain as to why they weren't counted in 2025? Because I see them and they see themselves as sheltered because they are in a lot together. So why would they not be included in the 2025 numbers?
Yeah, that's a really great question. HUD prescribes what is the definition of a sheltered of what project to include into the sheltered pit count, and based on HUD's definitions, which is not necessarily what locally we would describe as as one might describe those programs, but we have to follow HUD's directions and instructions on that, and so that's the reasoning. It's not a KCRHA decision. It's how HUD puts out the guidance for that.
And Christina, I think it's later on the agenda, but we will talk about, I think if we have time, some of like our local definitions for shelter, and safe parking is one of those local definitions that we have defined here for ourselves, but it's different than what HUD.
Yeah, this is pretty, no, he explained it just perfect. Now I understand, and I could go back and say exactly what Daniel just said. No, perfect. Now can you go on to number 2 for me?
Yes. Yes, so the PIC committee, I know that we have been actively recruiting for members of the PIC committee. The sign up for that was proposed to end this Friday. My understanding is that that's been extended a week after the convening was held yesterday. That's the COC convening, a large gathering of our membership. So that's going to be open up for another week. Right now, we have a total of 6 individuals who have signed up for the point in time count committee for 2026. And this committee's scope is going to be focused on supporting the unsheltered count. And let's see here, just like a note on that, we are in the active pre-planning stages for the point in time count. So we are working with our partners at UW, looking at the methodology, looking at areas of improvement that we noted from last year. And then in July, there's going to be a series of stakeholder engagement meetings that are going to be held, exact dates forthcoming, and just general coordination across our teams internally, and work towards hiring a PIT coordinator, or in some way figuring out how we're going to cover the activities that a coordinator would do. And the PIT committee is going to be primarily focused on those improvement pieces. How do we do, help us look at improving how we reach families, youth, certain those specific populations. Also volunteer recruitment, that's a huge part of the unsheltered PIT. So we're going to be looking at that PIT committee to support that work and getting out in your networks and helping us to bring people in to staff the hub sites. Still very early, which is really nice. Actually, this is much earlier than what we planned when we planned in 2024. So that's a huge win for us and this group, is that we're getting a jump on it this year much earlier than we had in the past. So that's a real bright spot for us right now. Any questions about PIC committee before I move on to the next section? Okay, the next bullet point, operations update. I think that's an artifact of some last minute changes to the agenda. I don't have any operations updates in regards to federal reporting on that one. Oh, I'll take that slot though to let you all know about guidance change from HUD. We knew this was coming. We've been talking about it for the last couple of months. Depending on kind of the workspaces that you're in, it's probably come up more or less. But HUD this year did not require us to report on gender for the 2025 point in time count. So that in our actual official submission, you'll see that in previous years, we had always reported on gender, but this year HUD's guidance limited that to all of the fields that we have done in the past, which are counts by household type, by subpopulations, veterans, youth, parenting youth, but did not want us reporting on gender this year. Now, we still collected that information. We still have that information locally, and that is something that we will continue to report on locally. But for HUD submission, it was not included. Questions about that? And then one other final update is that the Department of Commerce has changed their legislation on their point in time count requirements. They were ordinarily up until recently, the legislation required an annual unsheltered count by the state. Now the legislation reads that the Department of Commerce gets to decide if when they want to do an unsheltered count, but no less than the federally required every 2 years. And they're holding a meeting next week where they're going to talk more about the details. But really, what this does is the state is aligning with what we do here in Seattle and King County, which is an every 2-year unsheltered count. So they're likely going to align with our even years, so that at the state level and locally, we're all doing the unsheltered pit count the same years. And that meeting is going to go over some of those details and get some input from HMIS leads. So I'll be participating, someone from the research and data team here at KCRHA will be participating. I think it's either going to be myself or one of our senior analysts. Questions about that? That's kind of some big news that just came our way recently.
Is that gonna produce any kind of like administrative burdens on KCRHA or anything?
Actually, no, I think it's gonna hold steady for us because we already do it only once every 2 years since the KCRHA started. But the state was doing it every year, so I think it's going to be less burden from that for them, and for those that they fund, other communities, smaller counties that don't have HMIS staff or COC staff necessarily.
Oh,
to
awesome.
organize.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, good question. I think the reverse is probably more likely. It's going to be a less burden for the state.
Quick question, what do we lose? I was around when the state chose to do the pit every year. It was to get a better understanding on the numbers, not just in concentrated spaces, but across the state. And so I think the balance of state, which is a majority of the counties outside of the big ones, may lose a bit of usable data for their responses. It's a good thing. It may be a great thing, but I think if we don't understand why something was done, we're then mortgage data that could be helpful. Thanks.
I will bring up that in the working session next week. I'll ask that question. What was the backdrop to the state wanting to move in that direction?
I may or may not be part of that group, so, but I would love to hear the outcomes.
Yeah, great. I'm going to take that as a note, and I'll bring that question forward. I do think that one of the trade-offs, like you pointed out, Marvin, this is just me, years of experience of doing this work, is that we won't get that unsheltered count, at the state level. I think that's the clearest trade-off. I think the other one that we've been able to do more planning and thinking about the unsheltered count when we have the reprieve of a year off and look at those process improvement pieces. So that I think has been a positive for the KCRHA research and data team, is we get a longer runway to really think about it. And we did a team wrap up where we looked at things that we wanted to improve just on how we operated during that time. So it gives us a lot of a longer runway than if we were doing it every single year. And quite frankly, it's an expensive endeavor every year to do the unsheltered point count every 2 years. So I think feasibility wise, I wonder if that's a driver, and I'll find out when I talk with this Department of Commerce on this. But it is a costly project to bring in 150 plus volunteers, 19 hub sites, cleanup, materials, labor, all of that adds up. And the funding that's allocated for that through the COC planning grant.
Can I ask a question?
Oh yeah, please.
When I have a minute. I would really like to bring in Allison Eisinger and hear that, because that was not my understanding when it was with Skitch. I don't know if Marvin remembers back that far, but I don't remember it. It was labor intensive and there was a lot of people, but Allison and her small committee did it and did it under the budget like what we're doing it at, much under. And I would love to bring her in to actually say how it went, if that's a possibility.
Certainly, I would say that would be a something that the PIT committee to get some background. I think that would be a perfect vehicle for bringing in inputs like that. If I could, I mean, that would be my recommendation, is trying to shepherd that to the PIC committee, and then getting the PIC committee maybe coming to give an update to the SPC. I could see that governance structure. Not to get too much in the weeds there on that, Christina, but would you be willing to entertain something like that, where we bring in speakers and context providers and knowledge sharers to the PIC committee?
Do I need to make a motion on that to do that?
I think it's more kind of just a
No.
discussion, if we want to, like kind of use what we're building in terms of like structure, governance structure. That's my
What do
recommendation.
you guys think? Marvin and Ben and Joel and Alia, what do you think?
I think it's good to have historical context.
Yeah, and I think knowledge sharing and knowledge exchange is extremely important for changing systems and for like just so many good things that come from like mutual understanding and learning from each other. I am definitely in support.
Does anyone have a preference on whether that happens at the PIC committee or in system performance committee?
Oh, I think the PIC committee's fine. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, what do you all think? Do you think the PIC committee, or would you guys as SPC like to hear about that?
I'm sorry, I would.
Hear about it.
I think the PIC committee is a great place for it to be, and reporting back to us just makes sense. We can make space and time for it. Yep.
This is Tamara. I would even suggest doing something similar within the SBC, or something similar in that bringing the knowledge that we have within this space to the work. Like I'm thinking of the Wellbeing Blueprint and how I can like help incorporate that into workshops and training so that that becomes embedded in the work and the culture and building up a new future for our communities, because that I am thoroughly convinced that liberation requires a collective, approach and using data in a way that moves, that like further advances a movement. And this is a movement for like housing justice, anti-poverty, pro-liberation. My personal belief is that we should always be sharing knowledge, and this is personal because I'm learning so much about my own cultural history and roots that it's bringing me more present and in the moment. And I think there's something invaluable about that I would love to share with the community, but I know the community has so much wisdom, and how can we capitalize on that or utilize that to transform systems, because we're going to eventually have to like stop relying on external sources of funding and start developing mutual aid, like community power building, self-determination and self-efficacy. Because as we're saying now, we can't afford to be, like complacent. We can't afford to be complacent. So share knowledge, because honestly, that is, for me personally, has been one of the most liberating, transformative experiences, is learning how to better use data and to create transformation.
Great. I think I agree with the PIC committee. I think that's why I proposed it, being that receptacle for these inputs and then having them report back. I'm not the co-chair, so if that was something, Christina, you wanted to put to vote, by all means. I don't know if it needs a vote, or I'm sure Allison could come here and to the PIC committee, knowing kind of how.
I think it's, for somebody who's been on the SPC for almost 10 years now, understanding the history is really important to understand, and not just what Allison did, really, because new members have explained Owen's mechanism as well, because that's a little on the confusing side as well too. What do you, I hear two people who said just leave it with the pit, and then I heard one person say let's bring it to the group. What about the rest of you? I want to hear what everybody else says, like, because we put it to a vote, but I just want to hear if it's mostly you guys would like the pit to do it, that's fine, and then bring like a short synopsis of 5-10 minutes back of what it's about, or have ask Allison if one of her, and it would be her, she did it for many years, would come back and explain what I've Ben, Joel, Marvin, any of you, Sherry, you guys, anybody have any idea? Mustafa, anybody else on what you're thinking on this? Because I could put it in for, 10, 15 minutes in an upcoming agenda. Because this is your committee. Not hearing anybody else.
I think it should go to the pit crew and then report back to, or, like, I'd like to hear back what happens.
Okay, great.
I didn't say much because I felt like that. I guess maybe I shouldn't assume that to other people that feels like common sense to them. Just that seems like it makes the most sense of what should happen based on what I've heard so far. Does anybody? Am I missing something? Like, is it not common sense? And I'm thinking that it is.
It
No,
makes
this-
beautiful sense.
I agree.
Okay, no, that's fine. We will then task that with the PIC committee to, and I did volunteer. I don't know if you got my name, Daniel, when I tried to sign up yesterday, but I've always said I wanted to be on the PIC committee, and context for that. For many years, I did the PIC committee on the buses. I rode the buses at night, and I counted people when Allison was running the show. And that's what I did that night, as I boarded a bus at like, my gosh, it was like 9-10 o'clock at night, and I rode till like 4 a.m, different bus lines, E-line, etc., and collected information that way from my bus riders. And I felt it was a really great opportunity, but it was labor. I know it was labor intensive for those that didn't know. Allison ran several hundred volunteers around the community, came together. Most were not paid a stipend or anything. They just were information gatherers, and people went out. You looked at a tent, you assumed it was about 1.5 people. It was weird calculations, but we went around, we counted tents, we counted what we could tell. We had been given information what a vehicle might look like if someone was living in it, etc. And we just had different groups that went around, and then we came together for a breakfast the next day at several sites, and we gathered the data, turned it in, and that's how Allison Skitch did the pit. And as I said, I was on the buses, riding the buses with the Transit Riders Union, and that's all we did. And so, yeah, we could definitely have a short synopsis, probably I'm thinking like October-ish, about that, once you get the committee off the ground. So, okay. I am online now. I'm just trying to get the agenda up on my device. So what's the next thing, Daniel?
Yeah, the next thing we're going to kind of get into some of what Bella was really wanting, some of the content that Bella really wanted to get into, which is more purpose driven on the committee and what we want to bring our minds to bear on with the next 6 months. So I wanted to go over just some of the purpose and just a status update on where we're at project wise, and where I need where Bella, myself, Christina, I know you're newer as the co-chair, but and Marvin, you are helping to push this as well, which is we need your help as committee members to start working on some of the things that we need to get done by the end of the year in pretty quickly here and in earnest to get what we need to get done. It's not that it's a heavy lift, but it is a time commitment. So it's going to be some time outside of this meeting where community members may need to come together And I'll go through that in process here, and I'll share my screen on what I'm thinking, what I want to go through with you all. But I do want to pause really quick and just say, Christina, thank you so much for wanting to continue with the pit work and bringing all that historical experience to that. I think that'll be really, really good. And I don't want to minimize like what that commitment is for you and how much you're putting into all of this work. So thank you for doing that. And I think context like with Allison is going to be great. And then learning, you know, the new methodologies and you kind of following this for, you know, a decade. That's great. So appreciate that. Decade plus. So I'm going to share my screen. Oh, actually, you know what? It is 3 o'clock. It's break time. I'm just realizing that. I'm happy to break and then continue when we come back.
Just flagging that
Is
we
it
did
my
have,
computer
we
that
did
froze?
move something up. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Break time?
Yep.
Did he freeze or was it me?
It looks like we get a
Would
break
you-
until,
Okay, it's
real
time
fun.
for, yes, can we all take a break till 3:05? That would be great, and wait till he reloads up again.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Sounds good.
We'll be back at 3:05. I'm gonna try Bella again. Something's wrong.
Just checking, can you hear me?
And I'm back.
Welcome back. Just wait for Mr. Daniel to get back and then we'll proceed.
I received a text message that we did get a response from Bella that her voicemail is not accepting messages. So she won't be joining the meeting, but she will be emailing later, just an FYI for everyone. So she is okay.
Oh, thank you for that update. I appreciate that, Ruby.
Yeah, this is Christina. I do too, because yeah, she's read my text, but I haven't got a respond back, so I was worried. You know, we all have life, you know, whether it's work life, family life, life, you know, life gets us. So all right, we see
Sometimes things
Mr.
happen, you're right.
Exactly. Mr. Daniel is back, and if he'll go ahead and take the floor.
Oh, so formal. Hi, everybody. Mr. Daniel here. Let's see. I don't think I've been called that since I was a teacher in another life. Let's see here. Okay, some things that I want to go over. So what I wanted to do, and I talked with Bella about this, and Marvin, we've been, circling around this in the last quarter, which is items for this committee to be working on, and where are we at with our annual project plan. So I want to show you, I want to start a little different than what I had kind of planned for. And I want to show you, I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to get us to a matrix. Sorry here, folks. I to close some windows here. Oh, here we go. Tell me, give me some feedback that you can see this document here.
10-4.
10-4. I think I know what that means. I think that's a yes.
Yes. Let's see it.
So this
That's
is
an
called, yeah, so this is called the HMIS Lead Improvement Evaluation Matrix. This is a really, I encourage everyone to read this when you get a chance. I'll put this in the meeting notes. So send over Joel to embed. If you haven't seen this before, there's a lot of text here, but really this is the framework for evaluating your HMIS lead, which is the research and data team. And this gives us a checklist of things that we ought to be looking at over the course of the year. And I'll get to that checklist so you can see it. It's a little bit easier to read than all of the text that you see here. Marvin, can I get a thumbs up? You're able to see that?
I can see it. I can,
Great, great. And again, I know on the screen this can be a little
Yeah.
small.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure I send this out to everybody. And for those of you that have any challenges with reading text on screen, apologies in advance. I will also, make sure that, again, everyone has this so that they can do what they need to make this accessible. And if you have any access issues, please let me know. But here it's indexed, so a little bit of geography here. This is indexed into different sections. And these are all areas of recommendations to be reviewing of the HMIS lead entity, which is what KCRHA's role is here, which is making sure we're collecting the data, we're doing it in compliance with HUD's regulations and following other state and local regulations on this, that we're reporting out to the federally required reports that we should be, and that we have all of our documentation, this is policies and procedures, up to date, reviewed each and every year for the documents that do need to be updated and reviewed. And there's not a whole lot of documents that need to be updated and reviewed, but there are a good body of those. And these are policies and procedures like the HMIS Standard Operating Procedure, another great read for those of you who would like to read administrative stuff. There is the HMIS Data Quality Improvement Plan, and there's our agency partnership agreement. There's the HMIS consent form, and that really makes up the core of the documentation that we have for new agencies that we onboard and that oversee compliance of the providers that enter into the data system. And so in this matrix that you see, it's really asking us, have we ensured that we have all those things in place? And if we do, then we should be operating within a healthy HMIS. And so, for example, can the HMIS lead, I'll just gonna go down the list here. Can the HMIS lead document that it has been formally designated by the COC to manage the continuum's HMIS for its geographic area? And yes, that is in the ILA, that's our governing document that says, yes, KCRHA is the HMIS lead, and then it gives some information on how to get that started. Now, just a reminder that there are some communities where they don't even have, they have a small group of membership. Maybe they don't get any HUD funding directly, so there is it's not really happening. So there's a lot of reasons why some agencies or some communities are way far along in this process, like we are, and others who are still fledgling and trying to get these things stood up. So it's kind of just depends on your location. So for us, for this 1.1, we have that in place. We're already an HMIS lead. It's already designated. And so the response here would be yes for this in the checklist. I'll kind of sample, there's different sections here. I'll sample, go to the 2 series here, which is HMIS governance. So 2.1, again, an example here is there a written agreement such as the MOU or governance charter that clearly defines the roles and responsibilities of the HMIS lead, COC, and all other HMIS stakeholders across the HMIS implementation? And then you can see in the improvement strategies there, and my screen's a little, there we go. Do you have an MOU or governance charter? We do have a governance charter. Does it need to be updated? I think most of us here, if we've looked at that, it's pretty lean. And we oftentimes will default to the COC charter, where our charter doesn't have any guidelines or is kind of silent on a particular topic. We'll default to the COC charter. I think there is obviously some room to improve there on how we do things. In fact, in some ways, there's some conflict in the guidance between the COC charter and the SPC charter, or another way to put it is where the COC charter is explicit, the System Performance Committee charter is maybe implicit. And so one of those examples is co-chairs. Those 2 documents don't share the same guidance on how we vote on co-chair. So there's some alignment issues there. this is an area that I'm going to highlight that I would love for some committee members to step forward and say, yes, this is an area that I would like to participate in and start looking at documents. So I'm going to
Yeah.
pause here and just share that there is a few different sections. So we saw the series 1 looking at these improvement areas. And then there's the HMIS governance, which is section 2. And then we have section 3, which is system administration. And some of these are done. I'll just say I'm going fast, so don't feel like you have to read it. Some of these are done. We're already in place. It's a pretty slam dunk yes. Other ones like policy development implementation. So this is the section 4. And again, this is just a checklist of yes or no, do we have this? And what I'd like to propose is we look at these sections. I answer some questions now and see if we can get some of the committee members who are willing to look at this section, work with our co-chairs, work with myself, identify. I have actually, so I don't have it here in front of you, but I have this in another Excel spreadsheet with where things are at, notes, and where the latest updates are. So what my hope is we could get a few of you to commit to looking at these sections. I'm saying, yep, I'd be happy to join that, and then I would spin you up by sharing where we are with that. And like I said, some of this is going to be an easy yes. We've already done it this year, and some of it's going to be, we should look at that document, update the version, and approve it through the committee over the next 6 months. I'm gonna pause there because it's probably kind of a lot to take in. Questions, comments before I kind of go further?
This is
Yeah, as
Christina.
a-
I did have a question when I read this document before. What I guess I'm confused. What is an HMIS lead document? That I did not understand. An HMIS lead, is that the HMIS committee?
That's a really good question. HUD's language is really confusing around this stuff, everyone. There is the COC, there is the Continuum of Care collaborative applicant. This is a entity, and KCRHA holds that role. There is the HMIS lead entity, which KCRHA also holds that role, which is the research and data team. And then the COC and the System Performance Committee is the oversight group to ensure that we're fulfilling the requirements as those two entities. So you have the COC advisory board that oversees the Continuum of Care funds, the rating and ranking, the policies and procedures in the charter. And then we have the System Performance Committee that's ensuring that the HMIS lead is collecting data in compliance to HUD. In cases where we want to do something locally, you know, we have policies and procedures in place, that we even have the basic policies and procedures in place, like you see in some of these sections. And so to answer your question, these are entities created by the legislation that created the COC and the Continuum of Care funds.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. And it's like sometimes we, I think, miss some of the fundamentals on this stuff. So happy to take other questions similar to that.
And that is different than the actual HMIS vendor too. So like the actual person or the actual entity that's providing the HMIS is led by the HMIS lead, correct, Daniel?
Yeah, so our team ensures that we have the technology in place. We have a contract with BitFocus, who is one of many, I shouldn't say many, it's not as many as you think, other vendors out in the homeless sphere who creates the software to collect data at all the agencies. Yeah, not to minimize the role that our HMIS admins at BitFocus play. They do a lot of work for us to stay in compliance, and they're constantly going to the HUD calls. We all are, but them in particular, they're the ones taking notes, making sure the system is up to date. any rule changes, data collection standard changes, they're the ones that are going to make sure that the system is following that. And they regularly review that and work with our team at Research and Data, and we approve those changes.
Yeah, cool. Well, you have my hand raised, but I don't know why I can't do it on my screen right now for some reason. However, I hear you about the charter conversation, and I will definitely uplift that in the next charter revision. I'm sure Marvin will too. And then, sorry to say that you were on that, my bad. Anyway, trying to just think about how we can get our papers up to date and whatever is needed to do that. I love doing those sort of things, so let me know. And then I also wanted to uplift, we did have something that we had like moved to 3:05, and I just wanted to make sure that we were still on time frame for that person. They might have had other obligations, or I wasn't sure.
Yeah, you know, I'm looking at attendees. Does anyone see Tim in the Dr. Thomas, excuse me, in the waiting room? I don't. Let me look here quickly. No, it looks like I don't have anyone in the waiting room. So I apologize. I think maybe whatever meeting Dr. Thomas was in, it might be running long, is what I'm thinking. So at this point, I'm gonna recommend we just table that until the next committee meeting.
Do we need to do a vote on that?
I think it's just I just don't think he's able to make it. And but you know, having met and worked with Dr. Thomas now over the last several weeks, pretty easygoing. I think if he's not showing, it's probably for a really good reason. So I hope whatever meeting he's in, he's able to do what he needs to do, and then I'll do an invite for next month. I'm sure he's going to be fine with that. So any other questions about what I'm going through here on this HMIS lead series here? I want to just go through the sections here and go through them. Section 1 is HMIS lead requirements, making sure that we have all of our requirements put together, like that charter. And are we able to say yes to these sections here? Again, I've been keeping track of this. Some of these are a yes already. So once the group forms, I will meet with you. We'll set up some separate meetings, and then we'll go through, and you'll own. And I'm sorry, my computer keeps kicking me back. You would own this section here, HMIS lead requirements. No need to raise your hand yet. I'll go through them all. Would it be helpful if I actually gave the link in the chat so people can look at this on their own? Let me do that.
I gave it already, Daniel. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you. The next section is the HMIS governance. This is establishing a well-defined governance structure, as you see there in the summary, and ensure that there's clear roles and responsibility. This is that MOU charter, Ruby, that you talked about. So those of you that want to work on sort of the substrate of what we operate on as a committee, this would be good for you. So if you're kind of a big thinker, long-term planner, this would be a good work group for you to be a part of. And it's likely going to be, you know, probably one of the easier ones, because a lot of this stuff we already have done. It's really going to be what you're, you know, wishing to update here. And I would say definitely the charter, and looking at that alignment with the COC charter. So that's probably going to be the main body of work in this section. The next one is system administration. This is really more things that I answer on my end, but would love the partnership and give that line of sight to a committee member so they can see how I answer yes to these and what I'm providing to say that we've gotten to a yes on this. So do we perform all the system administration, management, and operational tasks? And the answer, and with all applicable MOUs, contracts, and the answer is yes. We do this checklist, and I have links to all the documents to show we've completed that stuff. Do we do, just another example in this section, do we do the project setup and data collection? The answer here is yes, we do. We meet on Tuesdays. We do that every week. We're constantly updating, changing, do change requests to projects if they have little inventory changes, or all new projects, new development of new PSH units. So yes, we do this. So this section is going to be really good for those that really want to know the inner workings of HMIS, that operations administration part of it. So if you want to know more about how we work with our vendor, how we identify issues, what happens, the user experience. If you're very interested in the user experience, you're going to get some understanding of what we do in cases of, what that training looks like, how we get people onboarded, what those look like, what that process looks like. So you're going to get a lot of that administrative level understanding if you were to work on sections here. And then for the policy walks and people who are very interested in understanding how policies and procedures are implemented, and looking at whether they're strong enough, are they covering what we need it to? If you like that policy work and reading through policies, this is going to be the section that you would want to focus on. And you can see in this section, does the HMIS lead actively collaborate with the COC to review, revise, approve a privacy plan, security plan, and a data quality plan for the HMIS? So we have these plans. You would get exposure to these policies. You would be working with me closely to read through these, and then we would look at versions to see if our versions are up to date, and if not, if there's any language changes. I will be honest with you, there are still documents where I see King County instead of KCRHA. So there's also some formatting work that needs to be done in some of our policies, but we just need some language changes, and then we're good to go on some of these documents. And the last section here is the software vendor monitoring. For someone who really wants to understand the landscape of vendor management and how we cooperate the HMIS with our BitFocus admin team, this is where we're going to kind of roll up our sleeves and look at that sort of work there. Again, some of these are done. These are things that are already in place. That's why we're able to operate. We already have a vendor selected. We're already doing our federal reporting with them. So some of these are going to be low-hanging fruit. Yes. Pretty quick to mark. Yes. In fact, a lot of these in all the sections we already have in place, which is the good news. And then section 6, this is those that really want to understand what's happening on the ground floor. So this is training, customer service, end user support, our end user survey, things like that are kind of going to be wrapped up into this. You will learn the technical pieces of how we support users, what trainings we have, how are we really taking how the data collection that HUD requires us, how are we training that? How are we standardizing that? Where do we have exceptions? And then where is the documentation that we're doing what we're supposed to in this realm? How are we doing annual compliance security trainings? Are we doing those? Answer is yes. But what do those look like? We do those on a quarterly basis. So you would learn more about, I'm sorry, folks. you'll learn more about that privacy security training and end user experience if you are interested in that. And I think that brings us to the end there. I'd like to open it up for some discussion. Pro Tem co-chair, Christina co-chair. I'm not entirely sure if you want to, make a motion to vote. I don't know necessarily this is something to vote on as much as I was looking just for some membership support on who might be willing to work on these, look at these with me, and then bring this back to the committee to ensure that we're evaluating, at least at the HUD level, what we ought to be doing on this committee. And it's not like it's not been done. This is really just trying to get you all more engaged in this, kind of an incremental shift towards putting you all back, or putting you all in the command seat on understanding this knowledge and being able to really get in there and make changes and recommendations to changes in the ways that you think might improve our system. I'll shut up there and stop, and I would like to hear from others on your thoughts here.
Hi,
I
this
think
is
we heard
Tam.
from Tamara and Ruby both said they would be doing it.
Yes, please.
Anyone else?
Did we want to break it up into sections? Tamara, Ruby, are you thinking you want to be involved in all sections? I want to make it manageable. I don't want to overwhelm the group. That's why I thought doing it in sections might be really
I
helpful.
think that's a great idea. Yeah, because I think that because of the data, the content is so dense, I think it will be helpful for people who have weird brains like mine to like have it in sections and chunks and getting different perspectives when we go. I mean, we could review it, like rotate the sections if we wanted to take that much time. But like, I do like the idea of participating in this and helping move that work forward.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just wanted to second what Tamara was saying there. I'm happy to help and do. I like that idea of maybe starting with a section and then rotating sections or something. Also wanted to offer that the cross-cutting policy work group would probably be interested in helping in this too, if they wanted to help distribute some of the work, like for reviewing it and editing it later on or something like that. I'm sure that that's something we could talk about too. But I'm glad to hear that we're looking at these and excited to see the outcomes.
Would it be helpful if I sent out a sign-up sheet with the different sections with kind of the summaries, and then people can sign up for the ones that they're interested in?
Yes, please. That is a really good idea. I personally need that kind of a tool to like document that I want to participate, because otherwise I'm going to get lost in multiple channels of things that I like to do. So yes, please. That would be great.
Okay. Sherry, Mustafa, Mustafa, I know you're, rather new. So there's a lot to take in. Is this of interest to you, engaging at this level, kind of getting down a layer deeper into this work and looking at, doing that kind of analysis for the committee?
Yeah, will depend on my schedules and my I've rather have a lot of cases, but it's okay. I can see my schedules, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So it does sound like sign up sheet is going to be the best route for everybody, with a summary of what to expect, and then once we have who's going to work on what, I will set up one-on-ones where we'll go through those sections together, even more granular than what I showed you today, and show where we're at. So when was the last time we updated document A, document B, document C?
That sounds good to me. I was trying to find my heart or thumbs up, but okay.
We'll take all three, Sherry. heart, thumbs up, smile emoji. So that's that was kind of the section there for that. I really just wanted to share with you all just a little bit of refocusing on the oversight portions of the HMIS, and then I really do need your help to start looking at those sections and where we don't have a yes, you know, that's where we can't answer yes, or we know we have to answer, we know we can answer yes, but we just need to get the documents together. I want to be able to have that. So this is great. So if ever we get monitored or audited, or you all have questions, are you doing this? We can go straight to the source. We can say, yes, this is when it was last updated. And we're all much more knowledgeable about the HMIS and its functions as the HMIS lead. So appreciate that. I'll send out the sign up sheet, and then that would be that's gonna, I think, take a lot of time over the next 6 months to make sure that we get from a no to a yes where we don't have yeses on that HMIS matrix. Great. The next thing I wanted to bring up, I'm gonna move on if that's okay with you, Christina.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna share my screen here. I want to just first make say a big thank you to the research and data team, specifically Claire Gilmet on our team. She oversees this system dashboard and does the refreshes on this for us at KCRHA. And I'm just letting the committee know that we had our quarterly refresh on this. And hopefully this is coming through for you all. This is on the website. And Joel, maybe if you could put the link in the chat, that would be great for those that want to look at it on your computer. This closely mirrors the system performance measures report, that training that we had last quarter, where we looked at how many were permanently housed, who returned, what's the average length of stay. It also adds utilization rates to that, and you can see this is the visual representation, and there's some filters and some drop downs. I think this is probably in and of itself could be a training for everyone to learn how to use this, but if you wanted to select, you know, emergency shelter type, you could get information on a particular projects here that are included in these measures. And you can see it's dynamic, so things at the top will change. So if we take transitional housing projects and we look at the reporting period of April 1st to the end of March, 3/31, you can see how many were permanently housed in that time frame, average length of stay, how many of them exited to permanent housing and then later returned to the system, how many new people had entered, those who were experiencing literal homelessness, and then utilization rates of those programs. And so if you hover, the tooltip will give you that at a project level or program level, excuse me. So you can start to look at that. Just a quick unmic or raise of hands. How many of you have seen this, are aware of this? Marvin, you're aware?
Yeah.
Victoria,
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you using this? Have you gotten any feedback from community members or any of the people that you work with also maybe looking at this? Or
I haven't asked recently, but usually when I'm doing the community task force meetings, when they ask me questions, I point them to the dashboard. Folks say that they are, so far, there's new information up. For a long
Yep.
time, it was either no dashboard or no updates. So this is good.
Yeah, I'm glad to see there's updates. I always look at this when there was the first iteration of it. It was really useful to communicate how many shelter beds there truly is and what the disparity is there between the amount of people that are experiencing homelessness and the available areas for them to go to.
yeah, That's great. That's great. And this is one of those things where there's always refinements. So if there's anything that here that you're just feeling like, this could be more useful if it had this, or visually, I'm challenged to see what those bubbles mean, right out of the gate. Any kind of feedback like that, I'm happy to take that back to the design team. I can't guarantee that, they can make those changes, but I can guarantee that I can get them back to the people designing this on the team and seeing how they can integrate those recommendations and then bring that back. So I did want to make you aware this is really important that we're refreshing this. This just happened. So this is the most recent data we have on this dashboard for you. And so as we wrap up Q3 and Q2 and then Q3 and Q4, we'll continue to update these throughout the year. Let's see here.
And a big thanks to Claire for.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the next section of the agenda, if I can move on, if that's okay with you, Christina and Pro Tem Tamara.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
for sure.
I wanted to give the group an update on the coordinated entry system for domestic violence survivors. And I think it's been a little bit since you all had approved this project going forward. And so I wanted to give you some updates on that. So this, just to recap, this is a coordinated entry. This is a coordinated entry project for those who are fleeing from domestic violence, stalking, dating violence, human trafficking. So this is a very specific coordinated entry that's being developed for that population. It's not that this wasn't already happening, it's that we're bringing that work into the HMIS. So we'll have an enrollment, so we'll be able to look at enrollment data. And then here are the updates. The Coalition for Ending Gender-Based Violence, they have been working with their coalition. They've been working with the Confidentiality Institute, with KCRHA, with BitFocus, and other stakeholder groups to get an assessment that is going to be a working assessment that's going to get the eligibility and information for intervention matching for that population. So where we're at right now is we're meeting bi-weekly with the BitFocus team, who is helping to manage the configuration portion. So we have a work plan where we're all working on pieces independently and then bringing it back to the project lead. BitFocus is doing the configuration. And then we have our next kind of milestone is October, November, where we really are going to see the system built out in the HMIS. And this is going to include their DV programs and their inventory. So we're going to have visibility on those that are entering the coordinated entry for DV survivors. So we'll have some top lines on amounts of individuals and households. We'll know the inventory of those interventions, and then we'll be able to link up those referrals and start doing some evaluations in next year once we have baseline data, once it's up and going. So we have a good runway for this. The hope is that this is completed in December and launching in the first quarter of 2026. This is pretty big for the community. This is something that hasn't been in the HMIS before. I've been working with our vendor. I've also been working with HUD technical assistance advisors to make sure that we're in compliance and we're doing all of this within the regulations and making sure we're ensuring client privacy and protections for this very, very vulnerable group. So working on assessments, that is happening currently. We're looking at the workflow. So what kind of screens are you going to click through? And then once we're past that, we're already in discussions about what inventory and referrals are gonna need to look like and what that queue system is gonna be, once we start, bringing in programs who are working with all these different folks. How do we prioritize them, in this coordinated entry project?
And I
Okay,
see Tamara had her hand up.
yeah, question.
Hi, yeah, I'm not to be like neurotic, but I'm wondering how are we going to ensure or measure somehow screen for people who are doing the work, you know, and putting in HMIS data. I don't know how much we can actually screen for it, you know, but how are we going to ensure that the folks, you know, involved in the work aren't actually perpetrators themselves or aren't somehow going to use the system to manipulate like especially if we're talking about folks who work in the homeless response system who haven't been exposed to the DV system as well. I'm just wondering, I think there should definitely be some systems cross training so that the folks who are doing homelessness advocacy and that have not had like either the lived experience or the experience working with that particular community. I think we really got to ensure that the infrastructure is well educated, well equipped with the appropriate skills and safety planning mindset and you know, self-determination, supporting self-determination in any and all ways for the survivors. And I just, my head goes to I tend to dig deep into things that like me trigger somebody or have some unintended consequence because of, you know, really well-intentioned pivots, but that may inadvertently have unintended consequences for a survivor or survivor's family. So I just want to make sure that if when we blend and do this work together, that both sides have a shared understanding, a clear, like you said, a clear designation of roles and responsibilities, and a shared like language for communicating each system's trends and like the solutions that are coming up in their respective fields. How can that benefit both sides? Like really thinking community oriented, well-being centered, relational systems that, you know, empower rather than compromise somebody's safety. And then I'm not saying that would happen, but that's where as a former DV advocate, that's where my head is at. Like I'm thinking, protecting not just from the abuser themselves, but from the systems that often support and further abuse survivors. So like my sometimes I get too complicated, but that's what I'm hoping is coming through is that we need to also protect our systems from people who may not have people's best interests at heart.
Thank you for that. Yes, I mean, I have a couple of like immediate reactions to what you're saying, all positive. I mean, if this group wants to, if you want to send a representative to the bi-weekly project meetings, I think having you all as an observer and as a participant and someone who might want to champion some of these things, like, you know, from the committee up to that, I don't see any, I see only benefits from that. I can go back and check to see if the coalition, who's the designated one to lead up this effort, is willing to allow that. And I think I think they would say yes, honestly. The other thing is just for like quick clarity, there will be no personal identifying information going into the HMIS for these programs, for these DV programs. These 20 plus DV providers are going to be working in this system. It's going to be all anonymous data. So there's that level of security, and then we're going to go through access roles, who gets to see what is not available. So that's all the work that's going to be done over the next part of the year, is ensuring that. And I, like you, Tamara, you come with a lot of wisdom and experience. I'm so happy that the coalition is reaching out to these other groups like the Confidentiality Institute, working directly with BitFocus, who has a deep bench depth in terms of all of their communities that they work with. So they bring up a lot of connections. We've met with the Safe Harbor in San Francisco. So they've got one of these programs. So we're really reaching out and tapping into all of our networks to make sure that we're doing this the right way, and not for expedience, not to just fulfill a reporting requirement, but to get these families and these individuals housed. Ben?
I just wanted to say that I'm really glad to hear that there are redundancies, you know, like to ensure the safety of, you know, the participants already in place. And I'm, like you said, I'm really encouraged that they're reaching out to these entities that kind of specialize in ensuring that systems are built maybe the right way the first time. So that's really encouraging. I also heard from what Tamara was saying that let's avoid what is, you know, like endemic to the human services sector, which is there's never enough training. Training is never, it's never enough to, like, people still have to, even after the training, they're having to kind of like stumble their way through processes and procedures and understanding of how things work and why. And so since we're like in a position where we're kind of standing up something new, we have the opportunity to do this right the first time. And so I'm just hoping that the like training that is developed for the rollout of this aspect of the program is really robust and designed in a way that you know, like the people that are actually providing the services are, it aligns with what they're doing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, is this educate me, please, but is this sort of like we don't want to re-traumatize folks as they go through the system, want to ensure that safety pieces component. Any details is great because I'm writing this all down, and I'm going to be making sure that we talk about, you know, those training needs in particular.
Well, I think that like from a client's perspective, you know, like you said, you always want to be trauma informed, ensuring that you're not traumatizing initially or re-traumatizing, which is incredibly hard to do because in many cases you have no idea the range or, you know, the range or depth of trauma that an individual has gone through. And at this day and age, literally everybody has trauma. So, I mean, that might be a great way to start, just like a kind of a refresher or perhaps even not a refresher of trauma-informed care. I think cultural humility is something that is gonna come in. I mean, it always does, but especially here because different cultures are going to be inclined to be accepting or maybe reticent to accept support under these conditions. But so I think all of that, so I was a little bit taking that stuff for granted and I should never do that. So thanks for mentioning that. But I also think that what I was talking about was like from a provider perspective. So so often when these programs and policies are kind of like put together, it's from individuals who may or may not have done any frontline work in the last 10 or 20 years. And so their heart is in the right place, but like as far as like rolling things out in a way that translates to like the actual provision of services, sometimes that's lacking. And so that creates a lot of trauma for the people providing the services because they're like, okay, why is this giant, you know, administrative burden being placed on my shoulders? And like they don't understand, they don't necessarily understand what they're doing or why, or so like I'm a VAT assessor, you know, I was a Vispadat assessor and I didn't even know, I mean, I was trained, but I didn't know what I was doing. So, I guess my point is just like, let's not do what has become so symptomatic of every program everywhere in human services. Like, let's take the time to teach people the right way the first time. Because that's there'll be a ripple effect, you know, like when they're training people that come behind them. And I think that when individuals in the community are talking to people who like know what they're talking about, like that can be felt. So I just think there's a lot of benefits to like being really diligent and really just thoughtful about how we're making sure to address the rollout of this program. And the last thing I'll say is my experience in human services is that because we do crisis work, the kind of like modus operandi is that people assume that we're just going to figure it out as we go. But I'm here to tell you that building the plane in midair is not a business model. This is not it. So like let's just like think about things ahead of time and like anticipate what is going to happen and what could possibly happen and have things in place to address those concerns when they come up. Sorry for talking so much.
No, this is good. I just a couple of responses. I think you're gonna be happy with this. The budget that we had for this project is between the 40 and 50,000 range. So we have a dedicated project manager who is looking at all these pieces, and then in the one of the provisions within the project contract to get this done with the BitFocus team, great partners, is the training piece. So we have dedicated training times. But what I think, Ben, would be really good is to bring, once we are looking at that piece, maybe bring it back to the committee for inputs to see if there's any blind spots there, or we're a little like we need to, get a little bit more definition in what our training plan is, with all the knowledge that you're bringing and other committee members to make sure we're doing that right. And I think everything that we're doing here is invitational. We want to build the best in the right system for our community. So I got notes here on that. So thank you, Ben. And then I think someone else raised their hand.
I can't see the screens for who's raising their hands or not. So somebody else had their hand raised, but I have a comment.
Yeah, there's nobody else on the screen that has their hand up.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna say I loved that discussion that we just heard on both Tamara and Ben, I believe. I was gonna uplift the idea that different training methods, maybe different training access points, I guess. So I know that they might do one specific way, and then maybe there would be something that's recorded or a step-by-step process. I don't know what kind of that looks like, but those were my ideas. People learn in different ways.
Yeah, and I think it's so great that Lauren and Melissa here. Don't feel like you need to respond, Lauren and Melissa, but they're hearing this and they're part of that group. So, or they work on that team. So this is good. We're all consensus building around that.
Absolutely. I love all the ideas and definitely here for it. So appreciate that feedback.
And then in the last couple minutes, I wanted to hand it over. Joel, do you think you have enough time to give a quick update on what you accomplished last?
Sure. Yeah. The subtyping. Yeah. So I will share my screen for a sec here. So if we kind of think back to the conversation about the pit earlier, Christina brought up a really kind of relevant thing for what I'm about to show, which is like the difference between what HUD expects and the difference between what like locally we expect when we ask a data question. And shelters are sort of a common place where that difference comes up. So we took on a project late last year to basically go through all of our shelters that have been active since 2017 and assign them different attributes that are here, like locally defined here, that kind of correspond to the questions that we get, that the research and data team gets pretty routinely from the community. So I'm going to share my screen. I think I need to send the request first though, Daniel. Okay, cool, yeah. And I'm just going to share, and this is a spreadsheet that I will zoom in on in a sec here. Okay, so can you see that? I'll zoom in here. Okay. So this is basically just the definitions tab here. It's a lot to look at, so it might be easier to listen than to look. But we kind of have 3 categories that we assign shelters to. The first one we call facility type. And within that, there's kind of two. So these first three, congregate, non-congregate, and semi-congregate, every shelter in our system is assigned one of those labels. As you can probably guess, they correspond to, do folks all sleep in the same room on mats or something that would be considered congregate. Semi-congregate would be maybe like rooms of, I think we have 2 to 5 people per room, but of separate households, right? And that would be semi-congregate, and then non-congregate would be where either families or single adults of different households are sleeping separately in different rooms. So each shelter got one of those categorizations. And then we also marked where a shelter program is a hoteling program. So it's like a hotel voucher, or we all know that we have a lot of tiny house villages here, and we get a lot of questions about tiny house villages. So we have a tag for that. So we can easily pull, if someone has a question about the occupancy rates of tiny homes, we can pull that easily. And then going back to the example from earlier, we have safe parking lots. So we have those counted. So again, HUD doesn't count those safe parking programs as emergency shelter, right? But we know that in this community, we often do count them as emergency shelters. So we want to be able to answer those questions accordingly. We also have shelters broken up here by enhanced versus basic. This is like kind of the squishiest definition of everything in here. The approach we took was really to say, if a shelter says they're enhanced, and if they kind of have one feature out of, like being open 24 hours, providing meals, providing case management, housing navigation, basically anything above like the minimum, just providing shelter kind of on a nightly basis, we classified those as enhanced. So we have a pretty inclusive definition of what an enhanced shelter is. But again, we get a lot of questions about that. And we want to answer those in a way that, kind of pays respect to all the amazing work that shelters are doing. And then the last category we have here is population. So this is just talking about who is the shelter serving. And we assigned these based off all of the enrollment data that is associated with each program. So if a program has a history of just kind of enrolling a bunch of single adults of any gender, then they would get this single adult tag. If they were more than 80% of single men, then they would get the single male identifying, female identifying. Maybe they also offer couples. Like we know a lot of tiny home villages, you can be a couple and enroll. So we have that as a tag as well. And then youth, families, sometimes it's all of the above. So this is just kind of a tool that my team uses a lot to answer a lot of data requests. We have a similar spreadsheet for like rapid rehousing programs, because there's a lot of nuance within what HUD considers a rapid rehousing program. But locally, we might have other definitions and kind of other relevant data about each program. So this is what the spreadsheet looks like. It's just a simple spreadsheet of every shelter that has been active since 2017. You can say each one has a facility type, a custom project type, which is saying is it enhanced or basic, and then the population here. So I use this all the time when I'm filling data requests, and I think Daniel just wanted to bring it up here because we have kind of the leeway to define things how we want to when we're answering questions locally, despite all of the kind of boundaries that HUD puts on us for federal reporting.
Yeah,
so it's 4:02, so that's my quick spiel.
Thank you, Joel. I know we're over time, so if those of you that have to jump, please feel free to. I just want to say this is really a good example of how we go further than where HUD does, so that we actually know what we need in our community and what we have in terms of our biggest asset, which are beds in our community, and what they look like and those characteristics. And Joel, you've been a huge contributor to this project, leading that, and thank you for that. Can you just say in one sentence what kind of engagement you had with the community to define those?
Yeah, so first and foremost, just with other staff at KCRHA, I went through it first and kind of did my initial, I did a bunch of Googling and knowing what I know about some shelters, did a first pass, passed it along to a lot of my colleagues at KCRHA, and then also passed it along to King County and City of Seattle folks, since kind of between those three governments, right, we have a contract with just about every shelter that's in this list. So there's a lot of engagement with government partners. didn't do as much direct engagement with the shelters themselves because I think every shelter would like to be classified as an enhanced shelter, and we wanted some degree of objectivity there. But really, made sure there were a lot of eyes on it. I certainly don't know every shelter like the back of my hand, so wanted to get as much knowledge there as possible. And happy to share the list, I think, if people are interested.
Joel, thank you so much for doing that. And again, Joel Bernstein is our data systems coordinator. He does a lot of this quarterbacking throughout the community and trying to further advance our definitions here locally so we can have better planning data. Thank you so much, Joel. That's time, everybody. I don't know if you want to officially close this out, Christina.
I just have a quick
Yeah.
question for Joel. What about people that don't fit in those qualifications of those lists? Do you have an other category?
Are you kind of like gender wise that don't fit?
No, like I'm an adult with caregivers, and I know several adults that are with their adult children that are severely disabled in the community that don't come under those qualifications. They don't have minor children with them, and I have to have caregivers. So I would not fit in any of those qualifications. So that's why I was asking, is there an other category?
So there is not necessarily that the way that shows up in the data is we would kind of say like, well, that's sort of similar as having like allowing couples, because right, we're saying you allow multi-member adult households. So we don't have that exact category because we can't make that conclusion based on the data available to us, but that kind of falls under a adult only multi-member household category.
Anything in order before we go?
Thank you, everyone. I'll send out the sign-up sheet and get the materials posted. And thank you all again. Appreciate your time and stay safe out there.
Bella did have an emergency, and she sends her, regrets for not being able there, but it was an emergency. So we do know she's contacted us now.
Great.
All right. Y'all have a great month. See you next month. Thank you.
Thank you.